I want to just pick up where we left off with Dan and the killing of this latest figure in Iran. Where does that leave the country in terms of leadership right now?
Tim, obviously, it's a pretty big news. Ali Larijani is a figure that anybody who's been watching Iran knows has had one or another senior political role for pretty much as long as the Islamic Republic has been around, 47 years. And he most recently returned as the head of the Supreme National Security Council back in August of last year, with his sole job as trying to sort of coordinate best policies as they right after the 12-day war. And now he's gone, most likely, although I haven't seen Iranian official confirmation, but he's probably gone. And I don't think we should underestimate what that means. It's pretty significant, at least a psychological blow. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's quickly replaced. I mean, the regime is still able to put people in senior positions, at least for now. Whether that means that those are the best people they have, or whether it just suggests that they want to show continuity, which is obviously very important for him, from a psychological point of view, to show that they're not on their way out.
Alex, Tim just turned to me and he says it sounds like whack-a-mole. And it does. It feels like as soon as you've reminded us, the regime is not one person, and that as soon as someone's out, they find somebody else. But having said that, not everybody is interchangeable and not everybody is a supreme leader. So I guess I keep wondering, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a video statement that his military is, quote, undermining this regime, meaning Iran, in the hope of giving the Iranian people a chance to remove it. Is it true? Has the regime been undermined? And is this what Iranians want?
Well, Carol, there's no way to deny the fact that the regime is undermined massively. Certainly has never been under such amount of attack in its history. And I would also say, Carol, no doubt in my mind that the people of Iran, by and large, really want to see the end of this regime. Obviously, from their point of view, they want the regime to fall with minimum casualties, minimum damage to the country's infrastructure. But the Islamic Republic, in the eyes of many, are a political system that brought one crisis or disaster upon the nation after another, going back to 1979. I mean, they made a host of bad decisions. You could go back to the taking over the U.S. Embassy in November of 1979, provoking Saddam Hussein to attack Iran in September of 80, and I can go on. Look, the regime is weak. It's not on its way out just yet. The big question, and I think that might answer partly what you're asking me, Carol, it's not just that the figures, all of them have to go. The question is, does Israel and the United States perhaps have it in them to accept so-called pragmatic figures from within the regime emerge as possible candidates to take over? That kind of tallies nicely with what President Trump has been suggesting a number of times over the course of this war.
Who are there any of those figures that we know about? Have those figures been identified, Alex? Are there any names of people who might be pragmatic and acceptable to the United States and Israel?
Well, that's a big question mark. I mean, I can give you names, Tim. Let me give you a former president, Hassan Rouhani. For some, he might be just pragmatic enough to be able to change course, take the country in a different direction. Many others would oppose him, say, well, that's not going to solve much. He's been part of this system from day one. So why go through all this trouble just to have someone like him in place? So really, I guess it comes down to how much appetite you have, if you are US, if you are Israel, for this war to continue, to get to a point where you say, I've eliminated all of them. Or you say, well, I don't want to stay here for months and years. I want to have somebody who is sensible enough to compromise, and I will then call it a day and move on.
Alex, one of the things that we keep talking about as we look at this war now in its third week, and it's something that, President Trump said earlier. He talked about the war in Iran. He said that everybody in the world should be thankful, and that if he and his administration had not taken all the steps it has on Iran, including withdrawing the U.S. from the landmark 2015 accord to curb Iran's nuclear program during his first term, that in his words, an, quote, unbelievable nuclear holocaust would have taken place. Is he right? Is this something that actually changes the trajectory of the region, of perhaps Iran's role with the world?
Carol, that's a great question. I mean, that was certainly the motive. That's how the president has tried to sort of, if you will, sell this to the American public. But
is it a sell, or is it maybe right?
Depends. Look, if the regime collapses, in the sense that we can say Islamic Republic is no longer here, is no longer relevant, Iran has moved on, the region will move on, then I would say that's pretty, I mean, to end something that's been with us for 50 years in less than a month, that, I know the world is going through an energy crisis, but it's still a significant success. But if the remnants of this regime stay with their thousands of drones and so forth and act like spoilers going forward, then the question becomes, was this the wisest way to do it? Why the timing? Why rush into something? And all sorts of questions can be then asked. But obviously, it's too early to judge. Let's see how long more this war goes on, and what any political transformation, major one, might come out of it.
Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned over the war with Iran. He claimed that Israel had misled President Trump into believing that the regime in Tehran posed an imminent threat. He said, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. It's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Those are the words of Joe Kent. Is he right that this country posed no imminent threat to the U.S.?
Look, I certainly, as an open source analyst, did not see any Iranian intentions to attack the United States anytime soon. They just didn't have that capacity. But the point is, and obviously the Israelis sit in a very different part of the world, so they have a very different perspective. They are much closer, and the regime in Tehran for decades vowed to destroy them. So they have a very different sort of sense of threat when it came to the Islamic Republic. Another way of looking at this, Tim, is the Islamic Republic did not do itself any favors going back to 1979, not sort of looking for ways to, if you will, mend ties with the United States after hostage crisis of 79. So again, depends how you measure hostility. The intent was never certainly to be a friend or partner of the United States. Ali Khamenei, the last supreme leader, openly talked about, getting the United States out of the region. So, but did I see an Iranian effort on the way to attack the United States? As I said, I certainly, in my position, did not see that. But I also didn't see them wanted to be friends with the United States, if that makes sense.